Hey guys, this is Danny.
And this is Jenny Fuentes.
And this is Dear Husband, Dear Wife.
Yes, it is a podcast that is about an imperfect couple keeping it 100% real. Where we talk about dating, marriage, and sex.
Yeah, all of it.
Yes, it is unscripted
Mm-hmm.
and it's centered in the truth.
Yes, we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, the messed up, the shady, the pretty things, the beautiful things. All of it.
All.
Jam-packed.
Yes. So thank you for tuning in and
We
get
hope.
ready.
Yeah.
We hope what?
I don't know. We just hope. We just hope.
We just hope that you will enjoy the episode that you're about to hear.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Enjoy.
Hello, people
Hello.
from planet Earth. This is Danny speaking.
This is Jenny Fuentes.
Welcome to Dear Husband, Dear Wife.
And we are excited to be back.
Mm-hmm.
Another episode. We are on a roll when it comes to vulnerability right now.
Mm-hmm.
And based on what the people want to hear, we are going to be talking today about our marriage and
Pornografía.
the impact of pornography in our marriage.
Yes.
Okay, so let's see, where do we start? Okay, so when we got married, I knew that Danny had been struggling with pornography because that was part of his healing journey when you broke up the first time with me, when you broke up the engagement.
The engagement. Yes.
It's like that's where part of your inner healing process was to confess and reconcile, and without the expectation of us getting back together, obviously.
Yeah.
So
that was not in the plan at that time, at least.
So let me preface by saying I knew that you had a history with pornography when I chose to continue my relationship with you and basically reconcile my relationship.
Yeah.
with you. So I think that's very important to say because there's also some ownership in that. I want to take some ownership on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So we got married in
2012.
And I was going to be 26 and Danny was going to be 25 that summer because we got married in May. So I was still 25.
You were 25, I was 24.
Yes.
I was turning 25.
You were turning 26.
So
Sorry, 25, and I was going to be turning 26. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
Okay.
It's exactly what I just said.
Sorry. And yeah, so we were young. We were in our mid-20s when we got married. Despite the fact that you had gone through inner healing, it didn't take pretty long to understand that pornography itself was going to affect our marriage.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing to understand for those of you who are listening, if you have a spouse that struggles with pornography, you probably are very familiar with relapses. So I had no idea, though. No one had ever talked to me or, educated me on what it would look like in my marriage. Does that make sense?
No, please explain. I'm just kidding, babe. Of course it makes sense. No, yeah. Well, I mean, it's, pornography in general was always a subject that a lot of people just never really touched. And the church didn't really do anything either. It was just always more like, I think, well, at least for me growing up in the church, the foundation to just living in general was a list of do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
And you couldn't do this and you couldn't do that. And obviously sex was for people that were married.
You didn't talk about it.
And yeah, that was it. Like it wasn't, there was no actual conversations,
Yeah.
whether it was within your own family or even within the church.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I think for us, something that we came to learn quickly was that we didn't have the support in place that we needed to help us in our marriage, like to help us when it came to this specific topic.
Yeah.
Hence why we talk about it and work with it with a bunch of couples who come to us and open up about this. Obviously, in our span of what's going to be 12 years of marriage, Danny has had relapses. And it has, like, pornography has played a significant, painful role in our marriage. And let me rephrase that, baby. Pornography played. I think language is so important in how we talk about it. So I'm going to speak it in power, saying, that it's no longer going to continue to have a foothold in our marriage. But it did play a really painful part in our marriage for both of us, I think. I'll explain my pain and then you can explain your pain so that people can have context. For me, it was painful because first and foremost, I have never really been one who has been addicted to pornography. And when I first got married to Danny, I had never watched pornography. I had no exposure to it. And I will not forget the first time that I watched it just because I was curious of what it was that you were attracted to.
Yeah.
I even stayed away from romance books that tend to have
explicit material
because I just wanted to guard my heart and my mind. So people can call me a prude, whatever. I really don't care. But the truth of the matter is, like, that was just the way that I always kept my guard on my heart. So I will not forget. Like, I won't forget the first time that I saw it. And I think for me, that broke me even more because it was then I realized the enemy used that little door that I opened up to make me feel less than, and the spirit of comparison like came in.
Yeah.
And so every time that you would relapse, I would feel less than, that I wasn't good enough. My body wasn't enough for you, that I had to change my body. My body had to look a certain way so that you would feel satisfied with me.
Yeah.
And I also had this narrative that you were not satisfied with me sexually. And pornography did end up playing a big impact in our sex life. Like, it just really did. I was scared. I was, I also was like, should I try something new? In my mind, I would always be like, should I try something new with Danny? But if so, I don't know what, because I only watched it once, but I just, I felt like, is he bored? Is he, the enemy was just throwing a bunch of freaking lies and darts into my head, which ended up affecting me. And so every time that you would relapse, I felt betrayed. I felt hurt. I felt less than. I felt extremely sad and angry. A lot of emotions, as one can probably think. So, that was my pain.
A lot of comparison.
Yeah, and I mean, I would even say it to you.
No. Yeah, I mean, growing up, obviously, it's not like every day you wake up and, try to find out what pornography is. But I remember when I first saw the first time I saw an explicit image of pornography, obviously this was like way before internet and, you know, all these smartphones that we have today, you know, you did it the old fashioned way. You know, if you wanted pornography, you had to somehow like, man, you had to like really like find ways to get it. Cause I mean, again, it was just magazines and DVDs, but you know, back then, like, you know, I mean, it's not like you could just walk into a store and buy it, or not like today where you just open up your internet tab, you know, your internet app and just type in any porn website you want. But I remember when I first saw a piece of pornography in a magazine, I was very confused because I was like, oh, is that what women look like? You know, I didn't know. Obviously, I was a kid. You know, I was what, 8 years old, I think it was, when I first saw that picture. You know, and even back then, like, you know, comparing to what I first started seeing pornography and how pornography is today, like it has evolved like so much. I mean, if you know, if I had to compare it, I would make up this thing, you know, almost saying like, oh, pornography was quote unquote cleaner back then in comparison to what it is today. But regardless, I was confused when I first saw it because I didn't know what I was looking at. I didn't know that that's how a woman's body was shaped, or I didn't know that women had breasts. Again, it wasn't a thing like I walked around knowing what girls look like.
So for context, how old were you?
I was 8. I was 8 years old. I was like, I mean, what? You're in elementary school at 8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm teaching 9-year-olds. So you were like
I was
third
what?
and fourth grade.
Like
between third
yeah.
and fourth,
Yeah. I was like, yeah, I was 8 years old. You know, how it happened, I don't remember exactly how it happened. But I was a kid, you know? Mm-hmm. And that curiosity of what a woman looked like under her clothing completely shaped and instantly altered my mind. Like, all of a sudden I was intrigued. I wanted to know what girls look like under their clothing. And I started to notice girls in a way that I didn't before. You know, I remember growing up, if I liked someone, it was because I thought she was the most beautiful thing. She had to have like the it smile. You know, like those were things that drew me to feel an emotion toward someone, toward the opposite sex. And I remember it went from that to, oh, well, now she has to have a bigger chest. Now she has to have a bigger butt, you know? Mm-hmm. Again, not realizing what it was doing to me.
Yeah.
You know, and slowly, little by little, again, you know, being curious about this and little by little pornography growing in my life, what I started to notice, thinking back, was all of my emotions toward the opposite sex was purely sexual. Had nothing to do with connection, had nothing to do with emotion. It was just very animalistic, you know?
And how did that transpire into our marriage? Like, did it ever transpire into our marriage? Like, was there a point where, like, your pain, your deception, because you were deceived, obviously, mm-hmm. That's like, it's a big trap from the enemy. Like, it's mm-hmm. the biggest trap and lie that a lot of men and women, to be honest, nowadays even women suffer with, mm-hmm. or are enslaved to. So how did pornography create pain for you when it came to our marriage? Like, what was some painful aspects for you that you experienced in our marriage?
I don't think I used pornography as a form of like relief from pain in regards to what I thought was wrong. Mm-hmm. You know, I really did, you know, and still do like believe that Like I didn't turn to pornography because I thought to myself, oh, I'm unhappy in my marriage, or, oh, I'm no longer physically attracted to my wife. I think pornography still played a big role because I just grew up with it.
Yeah.
I grew up with it, you know? And I didn't know what life was like without it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know what that looked like.
So it had become like a norm for
It was very, for me at least. I mean, again, obviously today it's different. I mean, you have couples that both, you know, husband and wives are addicted to pornography and even allow it in their marriage.
Yeah, yeah. We've
you know,
talked to couples like that, yeah.
But for me at least, it was normal in the sense of like, this is what I knew. This is all I knew. You know, again, this is something that took place when I was a kid. So by the time we got married, too many years had gone by.
Yeah.
Way too many years had gone by.
I mean, 8 to 24.
Mm-hmm. That's really long time.
What?
It's a long time.
Yeah.
It's a long time. And, you know, it was obviously hard. I mean, there was no way that I could have broken that by myself. But I kept falling back into it, not because of you. It was never because of you. Like, I know in my heart enough to say that my addiction to pornography had nothing to do with you ever. Mm-hmm. You know, that would have made sense if I wasn't into pornography before I met you and then all of a sudden did fall into it after marrying you. Then, yeah, there would be some connection to that. But because that was a part of my life for such a long time, it was just something that I felt like I needed. And again, like, it's not like our marriage, at least I don't feel that our marriage was like on the rocks or anything like that. Or, yeah, you know what, guys, I don't feel the same for my wife anymore, so that's why I watch pornography. No, it was just, oh, this has been with me since I was a kid, you know, so let me bring it along, even though I'm trying not to.
And I think that was a part that was very confusing for me.
Yeah.
Because not only did your actions brought on pain, but it also brought a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
For me.
Right.
You know? And being the person that I am, who loves to just like nerd out on things, I started doing research on like scientific stuff on pornography. And you started attending, when we were in Santa Barbara, you started attending a men's group to help.
Yeah.
Like accountability group,
yeah.
basically. And it was there where you were first exposed to the science behind like what happens to our brain. I had no idea also what like what you're saying right now, that you're right, our marriage wasn't on the rocks. It never felt that way. Like,
no,
it never felt
no.
like we were having problems or anything. But it just felt like you would just do this.
Yeah.
It would hurt me and
right.
it would be freaking painful.
If everything looks good on the outside, then why do something that hurts?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was confusing for me. But then I realized your brain had been chemically wired.
Rewired, I guess you could say.
Yeah, rewired in a way that you needed that dopamine. And you also were an addict. Like you were an addict. And one thing that I've learned about addicts in general is that whether it is alcoholism, drug addiction, or pornography addiction, like an addict sometimes does things without wanting to purposely hurt someone.
Yeah.
And it's just...
It's like second nature to them.
It's like second nature to them.
It just
things
it just
can trigger
flows.
them to want to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think that was really hard for me at first, because I first did not want to admit that I was married to a porn addict.
Well, I didn't want to admit that I was an addict.
Yeah.
You know, it just...
The stigma and the label behind it.
Yeah. I mean, you know, if I heard the word drug addict, like you physically saw what that was. You know, you would physically see what that did to people.
Yes.
You know, someone addicted to alcohol, like you know what that was or what that even implies, like physically. So I never felt like I was addicted because it's like, how can you physically display an addiction to pornography, right? Mm-hmm. And obviously I wasn't going around, you know, having sex with a bunch of women. You know, I didn't have sex with a bunch of women like before you and I met. Yeah, I fooled around, but not to the extent where like I have an extreme body count, you know?
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, it's not like, I mean, I didn't grow up rich, so I didn't have a car. I didn't have means of my own transportation. So I'm not going to bring anyone home when I'm still living with my parents and all that. So there was a lot, you know, that pushed me, not pushed me, but that kept me from taking it that far.
Thank God.
Yes.
I mean, I see God's protection and finger over that. Obviously, He has always loved you and pursued you. You know, so yeah. But
to go back to the question of like what was like what kind of pain was I going through? I think at the time, there was a lot of just comparison. You know, I never really felt like. I never felt like I was enough for my mom growing up. You know, it was always more like, hey, you got to be like your brother, or hey, you should be like this person or like that person. Obviously, you know, grew up in the church kind of thing. So I had a lot of church friends and, you know, they were pretty decent kids, I guess, at least from the outside. But there was a lot of comparison. Like it never, you know, a lot of comparison, and then also a lot of misjudgment in the sense of like, my mom always thought that I was doing something wrong. Always thought that I was, you know, trying to do things I shouldn't be doing when I really wasn't.
Yeah.
You know, I was just again a regular kid. I didn't go out to parties. I didn't have, you know, sleepovers. I didn't go to sleepovers. You know, that was just the thing. Like, I guess, you know, my mom always felt like any chance that any day that I was around where she wasn't was like an opportunity for me to cut loose. Mm-hmm. So she always felt like, you know, I needed to be on a leash kind of thing. Yeah. So I just carried around a, you know, giant void of like, just not being loved, whatever that was. Not like I knew what that was, but not being loved the way I should have been as a kid, you know? And I, you know, found quote unquote, you know, love through porn. You know, where pornography was just something, you know, disgusting. And I felt like, well, I'm disgusting too. So why not be one with this? So I took it, you know, I took it with me. You know, I thought, this is it. Like if my mom's always going to think that I'm the kind of person that's going to do something wrong, you know, or shady or just, you know, be cold hearted, then why fight her to convince her otherwise and just actually give her the reason to believe everything, you know, about me in that way. So
yeah.
So that was a part, you know. And then yes, after so many years of pornography, like I really felt like, this is me. Like, why would anybody want to be, you know, around me or with me?
So when you would do it, when you would, like, fall into it, what were your thoughts when it came to me?
I always felt like you were extremely perfect. Because there was never nothing wrong with you. You didn't...
But there's a lot that's wrong.
I mean, yes, there's obviously we all have like, you know, things that are not okay. But in our case, you know, at least knowing about how you grew up, there was no addictions in your life. You know, there was nothing that took place where you felt like, man, I really messed this up. Like I'm here today because I did this or because I did that. You know, again, for some people it's, you know, it's drinking. For some people it's drugs. For some people it's, yeah, I'm the person that broke this home, you know, or some people is, you know, doing things that just completely destroy other people, whatever it is, you know. And so in your case, you know, again, like just knowing about how you grew up, I never found anything that said, oh, this is how Jenny is. It was mostly just, you know, your average home environment where crap goes down between mom and dad and it affects you, you know. But other than that, like for obviously, again, for me was pornography and also just a heavy crutch with food. You know, I would drown myself in food, you know, have zero regard for my own personal health. You know, so I felt like it wasn't just pornography, but it was also food. You know, again, it was that mindset of, if I am disgusting, then why not live it? Why keep pretending like I'm not? Yeah.
So I guess for the sake of our story, I mean, our road has not been easy. Like our journey as a couple has not been easy. We've had really high highs and really low lows. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who are listening to our story, whose spouse is addicted to pornography, but if you're not, you probably are saying, yes, Jenny, I hear you. I feel exactly what you're saying. I just want to say, like, what did you... I just want to say that you sorry, to the listener, I want to say you didn't do anything wrong. Because I think that was the biggest concern with me, is that I thought I had done something wrong. Yeah. I thought I wasn't enough. I thought you were unsatisfied with me because I have XYZ, whatever it was. But the truth of the matter is I had never done anything wrong. And you were just addicted, obviously. And you were struggling with your own identity. You were struggling with your own worth. Yeah. And you were defaulting to this yucky stuff to fill, quote unquote, a void. And people have asked me, why did I stick around and why, you know,
even I've asked you, and I still wonder that too, like why. I think one of the biggest
things that I've learned in this journey is we all have our own demons that we fight. And even though you don't see, quote unquote, there's something wrong with me, I have my own demons that I constantly fight. Yeah. You know? And I think when I said I do to you, I made a vow before the Lord that I was going to stay with you in sickness and in health. And the truth of the matter is that an addict is someone who's sick.
Yeah.
And
that's good. I never saw it that way.
And, well, I had not seen it that way. And it's until I started reading more. And it was also like, I feel like it was God's love towards you and towards me to make me realize that what you were dealing with was a sickness of addiction. And I had made a vow in sickness and in health to be with you.
Wow. Yeah.
And I see also God's kindness in that. And so at this point, I had to surrender what I wanted to control. Yeah. Does that make sense? Like, I wanted to fix you.
I think that's just every woman's approach to many things.
And I couldn't. I had to let God meet you in the deepest, most painful, vulnerable moment.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people, or at least a lot of relationships struggle with today. You know, is that thought of, okay, you know, this is something that I can't fix, you know.
Well, I didn't even want to admit, babe, that you were sick.
Well, again, like, I didn't want to admit to the fact that I was addicted, like full blown addicted. You know, I didn't want to see it that way, you know, because again, I thought to myself, I'm older now.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not a kid anymore. You know, I always thought like, yeah, I can stop this. But the truth was that I couldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I just couldn't.
Yeah. I think the last time that you relapsed, I was tired.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I was just like, I'm done with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear, like, you saw the mad woman in, like, the mad woman in me. Not the angry mad, but like the crazy mad woman in me, where I literally was like ready to throw TV, consoles, everything, even your phone on the freaking, like across, over the balcony. Like, I was literally ready to do those things. Because I was so hurt. I was so angry that this was continuing on and this cycle kept doing so.
Yeah.
But in the midst of all this, I have learned, number one, is that it's an illness. Addiction is an illness. Whether it is you're dealing with any type of addiction, that person is sick.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And sickness doesn't heal from one night to the other. It takes time.
Yeah.
And in sickness, you have to be patient. And I felt like God was just saying, Jenny, just be patient. Just be patient. I didn't have to.
Which is hard.
Yeah, I didn't have to.
It's hard, you know, and it's understandable why, like, a lot of, again, I get why a lot of relationships just end.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. Yeah.
You know, that's, I mean, I can't say for anyone that's been going through this, to all you women, I cannot sit here and judge and say, oh, because my wife chose to stick around, and for those of you that didn't, boo-hoo, you know, like, I can't judge, you know. I know a lot of people that, you know, are dealing with this, and, you know, their marriages are suffering, you know, and yeah, it's true. It hurts. It destroys everything.
It destroys trust. It destroys confidence. It destroys the marriage in general. It even impacts your sex life. So it's like there's so much that comes with that addiction, you know? But yeah, to answer your question directly, I think it's like, that's why I stayed, babe. I stayed because I see God's kindness.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I mean, again,
like,
it's...
honestly, it had to be God giving me the strength, because I swear to God, I wanted to leave so many times.
Not only that, but I think, you know, when I came to terms that last time, you know, where I literally, like, sat here and I, like, prayed and I told God that I was an addict. I think that's what finally got me. Was to sit here, you know, crying, you know, with my eyes closed and, like, literally praying and telling the Lord, I'm an addict. I've wanted pornography and I've been wanting it. You know, and it's like everything made sense. Everything connected. Everything clicked that night. Because I kept, you know, fighting it, like, not fighting it, but I kept fighting, like, Lord, I mean, come on. There's, like, testimonies of people that wake up one day to the next and all of a sudden, you know, they can't have a drink anymore because they get nauseous when they used to be an alcoholic, or, you know, they can't bear the smell of any kind of smoke because they used to come from, you know, they came from drugs. And it's like, you know, like, I never understood why those people were able to have that type of experience, you know, and why I couldn't, you know. But it, like, the fact that I had to sit here and in my pool of filth, full on confess that I enjoyed every second of pornography was probably the most disgusting thing I had ever done. Yeah. You know, I think confessing that, I feel like was was probably far more worse than actually having done pornography. Because it's like, you know, it's hard. It's hard to actually say that.
Yeah.
Especially to, like, you know, I mean, you go to church and you learn about, you know, a lot of things about Jesus, and everyone has this conception of perfection. So you feel like you have to live up to that. But yeah, I felt pretty bad, like extremely bad, at the fact that, you know, I confessed it, you know, and it was that moment where I actually did feel the change. I did feel the shift in my heart to no longer want pornography. Until this day, haven't had the desire to. But it also comes with, like, you know, even then, it's not like, oh, I had my moment, I finally confessed to it, and now that's it. You know, like, it's not gonna faze me. You know, that's obviously not true. I have to guard my heart. You know, guard my heart in every aspect. You know, not allow myself to be in positions that will make me vulnerable to that.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the most important things that, for someone who is hearing this and is saying, "Oh, I'm Danny," or like, I'm the one struggling, I'm the addict, basically. I think the biggest key or the biggest lesson we have learned, both you and I, is it took real, genuine, raw confession for you to be set free.
Yeah.
You know, and I think
which is the hardest part.
Yeah.
I think that's the one obstacle that a lot of people, you know, are afraid to do. And I mean, it's not just, oh yeah, I'm addicted to pornography. Like, again, like, I think, you know, we live in a culture today where it's normal now, you know, and I have friends that, you know, that are married, that both wife and husband are addicted to porn, and they both know from each other that they're addicted to porn, you know, and they deem it okay for their marriage. But, you know, obviously for us, like, it was something that couldn't continue.
Yeah. And I think going back to confession, babe, it reminded me of, like, right now I'm, like, looking it up. There's a scripture in 1 of John where it says, like, I love this. If we say that we have no sin, we deceive ourselves. But then the second part says, yes, I have sinned, but if we confess our sins, he is faithful just to forgive us our sins. So I think there's this part of, like we have to confess them in order to experience full freedom and forgiveness. And it took you admitting and confessing that you were a porn addict, that you liked it, that you enjoyed it, that you sought it for pleasure or not. And it took that moment. Because I think that was your breaking point. Like, for so long you were fighting it.
Yeah.
You know, and I think I would pray. I think that's the other thing that I would say. Like, I prayed every day for you.
Yeah.
Like, every single day. I would pray for your mind. For God to renew your mind. To heal you. To rewire your brain. You know, I would wake up early in the morning to just pray for you. Like, I even have journals written where I'm praying for you and warring for you. And I think, like, I was tired and I was like, God, when are you going to answer my prayer? Because I felt like God was not listening. But man, God is so good.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, I think It took full confession. I think it was your pride and your guilt and your shame that was keeping you from fully confessing and admitting that you liked it, that you enjoyed it, to finally experience freedom.
Yeah.
And so I would say, like, to anyone who's like struggling with pornography, don't let shame or guilt paralyze you, because I think that's what it was. You were always embarrassed and shameful, and the enemy uses shame to keep us in our filth. So I'm proud of you.
I didn't do anything, babe. All I did was just admit what I was afraid to admit. That's all I did. I tried to fight it, and nothing I did ever worked. So I did nothing but just admit what I was afraid to admit. And now I'm here. I get to say that I'm not an addict anymore. And I never thought this day would come. I seriously figured that at some point I would die, and this would be the only thing I would ever have to not talk about, but like give a report on, you know. But now I'm here. You know, I'm on the other side. You know, still getting used to it. And it feels good, you know, to not have to think about pornography like I did. To not feel like, oh man, I can't, you know, be around this or be around that, or, you know, almost to the point where like, don't leave me alone because I'm just going to go straight to it. You know, but now I feel, you know, I feel like confidence is growing in me to the point where I'm beginning to believe that I am better than that. You know?
Yeah. It no longer has a foothold on you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the most important thing to know, friends who are listening, is like, it takes time.
Yeah.
Like, healing takes time. You know, we're still working in our healing.
No, always.
Yeah. Like, trust.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
No.
trust was broken, so we're rebuilding trust. Every time that it was a relapse, trust was always broken, so we would have to rebuild it again. And like, thank you for being patient with me.
Yeah, babe. I understand. And the times that you're, you know, that you feel like you have to question certain things, I understand. You know?
Yeah. And I think that's what I would say to the person who is on the other side, who's the addict. I would say, you know, like, be patient with the spouse who feels betrayed.
Yeah.
You know, just how your spouse is being patient with you every time that you relapse.
Yeah.
You know, we show up for each other. I think it's true what they say, marriage is 100%. Like, I give my 100, you give your 100. Because when you can't give your 100, I can at least give the 100 for us.
Yeah.
And so, be patient. If you're listening to this and you're the spouse who is dealing with a spouse who's addicted to pornography, pray. Be patient.
Yeah.
Remember, I think language is so important. Remember, it's a sickness.
Mm-hmm.
You're dealing with someone who's sick. Don't stop warring.
Yeah.
you're a believer, cling on to Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it's harder for couples who don't. And I'm not trying to be judgmental or anything like this, but it is harder for couples. And we've seen this with couples that we've worked who are not believers. It's a lot harder for them to see the end of the light at the end of the tunnel. Because hope is very scarce.
Mm-hmm.
When you don't have Jesus, you don't have Jesus to cling to.
Yeah.
If you're an addict and you're a non-believer, this is your opportunity to give your life to Jesus, who promises in his word that if you confess your sins, he is quick to forgive them.
Yeah.
So just confess.
And he walks alongside you.
Yeah.
You know, your life goes from having to live it by yourself to living it with someone that sees what you can't. You know, protects you, watches over you, keeps you from harm's way.
You're not alone.
No. And I would even say to those that have lost their marriages, relationships, fiancés because of pornography, I'm sorry. My heart goes out to all of you. I can say that I've dabbled enough to where I've metaphorically have pushed my wife to the verge of walking away from me. The fact that she has not is a miracle in itself, and I still don't understand why she's still here. But what I can say is I refuse to believe that that's the end of your story, where you feel like this is what you deserve because of what you've done. You know, I think that's something the enemy wants to make a reality. You know, it's interesting how you have two entities. You have God, who sees nothing but beauty in you, yet you have the enemy who sees nothing but disgust and hate for you. I guess the question is, which one do we prefer? But to those of you that have been affected by that, you know, I pray that you are but I pray that you find that second chance, you know, to be redeemed, to know that sits behind you so that you can move forward in love the way God intended it to be.
Yeah. Amen to that.
Yeah.
So, this is our story.
Yeah. Or at least part of it. That's, I mean, there's like much more, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if there's any takeaways that we want to end with is like, number one, don't stop praying for your spouse. Number two, patience. Number three, language. Remember, it's a sickness. Someone who's addicted is dealing with a sickness.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you excuse the action, and I want to tread carefully on this because I think it's very important to say that. But what it does mean is, you know, you have the choice, and I hope you choose to walk alongside your partner to their healing journey and whatnot.
Yeah.
And for the addict, for the person who's struggling with pornography, you are loved. And he wants to set you free.
Yeah.
So we hope that you surrender your life to Jesus and that you also confess your sin, because there's a lot of Christian men who struggle with this and a lot of Christian women who struggle with this.
Yeah.
And I know that you've given your life to Jesus. and you're like, why? If I've given my life to Jesus, why do I still struggle with this? Again, sanctification is an everyday choice and action that we have to take. So I pray that you have the strength to sanctify your life, to confess your sin daily. Not just, oh God, forgive me of my sins, but be very thoughtful and intentional about your confession so that God can continue to do the work that he has been doing already in you.
Yeah, it's good, man.
All right, sweet friends. If you ever want to talk to any of us, we're here for you.
Yeah, feel free to reach out.
You're not alone.
Let's stick together.
Yeah. Because there is power in community. Lots of power.
Yeah.
And there's no shame. We will not shame you. Because that is the biggest lie of the enemy.
Yeah.
But instead we will empower you, push you, propel you to receive healing, support, help that you need.
Yeah.
To overcome this big demon. All right, y'all.
Okay, guys. Have a good evening, a good day, good weekend.
Yeah, whatever it is.
Hope that everything goes well for you guys during your personal time. And we'll catch you guys soon on the next episode.
Yeah.
Have a good one.
Adios.
Hey guys, thank you so much again for listening to the episode and for tuning in to the podcast. Again, I hope that the episodes and the podcast are encouraging. I hope that it brings you guys new light, new perspective, a new approach to marriages, to relationships. We hope that it gives you guys the right tools to be able to move forward and how it fits best for you.
Yeah, and if you have any questions or you want more details, just go ahead and follow us on Instagram at our Instagram handle, which is Danny and Jenny, or email us at contact@dannyandjenny.com. We look forward to
hearing from you.
Yeah, and to the next episode.
Awesome.
All right.
Take care.
Adios.